Between the trip out and back for Thanksgiving, I had about 6 hours of one-on-one time with my grandmother. And it was delightful. It really was. She'd bring up a topic, and I would listen and discuss it, and then I'd have questions, and listening to her responses were just wonderful. It was just wonderful. On the way out, we touched upon the topic of my grandfather, her husband. She made no bones about his being rather ornery, quite mischievous growing up. Evidently, she didn't go into too much detail, but I got a better sense of this when we began to touch on his later years. So he lived for 28 years with Parkinson's. She cared for him for 28 years, and if you know anything about that disease, it gradually erodes all your physical abilities. And so I asked her, how did he handle that? What was his spirit like as he lost those abilities, having loved being an outdoorsman and a sportsman? And her response just totally surprised me. I asked that question, and she said, well, I think he had a pretty clear sense that his purgatory was going to be pretty tough. What exactly does that have to do with it? But I think what she was saying is he understood in faith that he was already participating in that which was necessary in order to be purified, to be in God's presence. On the way back, we talked about her dad, my grandpa Kelch. In the early 1900s, when he was about 20 years old, an uncle of his, who was outside of liberal Kansas farming, wrote to him over in Germany asking him to come help. And so he did at that age. He spoke very little English and went there and began to work for him. But for a reason that nobody knows, the uncle wouldn't allow him to go to church. He would ask time and again if he could go to Mass, and his uncle would simply say no. And so at some point he said, well, then I want to go back home. I want to go back to Germany. And his uncle said, no, you can't. But a neighbor intervened, and he was allowed to leave, but he only had enough money to make it as far as Dundee, which is just central Kansas, close to Great Bend. He ran across the farmer there who fed him and then allowed him to sleep in his barn for the night. And he asked about work, and he said, well, there was another farmer a few miles away who had a sand pit that often needed help. So he went there, asked him for work, and the man must have felt sorry for him, is what my grandma said. He also was German and had this big, thick accent. So he allowed him to work in the sand pit and then gave him a job on his farm. And after 7 years, he married his daughter. It's a great story, isn't it? Now, maybe you made the connection, but it struck me eventually that if the man who was to be my grandfather had not demanded to go to Mass, I wouldn't exist. His path would not have crossed paths with my great-grandmother, and my grandmother wouldn't have been born. It's amazing. Kids, young people, I want to say to you first, give space for your grandparents to share, especially as we approach the holidays, Christmas time, where you're going to be around them likely more. By which I mean, give them time. Set down your devices. Give them space to talk and be attentive to them. Listen to them. They are treasures, and they carry within themselves treasures. And their memories are treasures. Your identity and your purpose is largely wrapped up in your family history. It's important to you. This is something of what we heard St. Paul say in our second reading. Brothers and sisters, whatever was written previously in the Scriptures was written for our instruction, that by endurance and by the encouragement of the Scriptures we might have hope. The Scriptures, The Bible is your family history, he's saying, and it was recorded and shared for our instruction, which provides encouragement and, along with endurance, produces hope. And then Paul went ahead and quoted some of our family history, which is actually a quote from part of our first reading from Isaiah. On that day, the root of Jesse shall come, set up as a signal for the nations. The Gentiles shall seek out, for his dwelling shall be glorious, eternal. See, Paul looks back in time, and what he finds is a passage that looks forward to the coming of the Messiah, who is connected with King David and his father Jesse. This man, Jesus, will be the one, he is the one who will come and judge. He will set all things right. Knowing our family history, God's family history provides encouragement. And along with our efforts, that's what endurance means, gives hope. It holds despair at bay. Now, maybe it just comes with age, although I really don't think so, because I notice it in so many young people. Maybe it comes with being a priest and being exposed to so many of the trials and sufferings that people face. Or maybe it's just the result of being alive. But I'm struck by the number of things that can weaken our hope and make us wonder what the point of life is, if it really is worth living. I mean, serious troubles in our country and in the world, environments and influences that make it so tough to be a kid and grow up in. So many young people addicted to pornography, their phone, sexual activity, hating themselves all the while, illness and death of loved ones, just the shortness of life. Where does the time go? And then troubled relationships. Gosh, in the span of a couple days, I spoke with a couple young wives, one of whose family was being ripped apart because of alcoholism, and the other one because of infidelity. There's no shortage of forces at work to make us humans despair and lose hope. Friends, don't forget that you're part of a larger story, that so many lives have been lived and words and deeds recorded for our benefit. The choices we make in faith matter, even if we don't live to see the fruits. The root of Jesse has come and will come again to judge. And what do judges do? They establish justice. They set things right. He will come and set things right. Be encouraged. God has wanted you and welcomed you into his family. Endure. Bear good fruit. Prepare the way for the Lord. One day we will come to know what it all means when the earth is filled with the knowledge of the Lord.